Hokey religions and ancient weapons. No match for a good blaster, you said.
Welcome to Hokey Religion, the Star Wars podcast. This episode, we're going to talk about The Mandalorian and the Rise of Skywalker because we're back. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
Welcome to episode Who Cares? Because I forgot to look beforehand.
107. It's right there.
Okay. 107. The perfect number.
We're back. Well, we seen the thing. We see both of them.
We've seen them both. I think we've both seen Rise of Skywalker twice as well.
Yeah, I just saw it again today, right before recording, and it's good. Done.
Did you finish?
Review over.
Did you finish the Rebellion book before Rise of Skywalker came out? Like you said, you were
what
gonna
do you think?
I assume not.
Did you?
Oh no, not at all.
Of course not. I think I'm further along in the book than you are.
Yeah, you probably are.
Does that count?
That's a first. You did it.
I did.
That is an accomplishment. Yeah, we took a break to see the movie and all the holiday things that we celebrate.
Everybody was traveling and
getting sick, slightly dying. It's, a great time of year.
Yeah, holidays.
So, how were your Star Wars this holiday season?
My Star Wars were well.
Good.
I had lots of Star Wars. How about your Star Wars?
I had to deal with my family members that aren't Star Wars people or just want to complain about Star Wars. They see Star Wars so that they can complain about it.
Yes.
Those people.
Those old gems.
Yeah. So that's fun. Always, every time.
Well,
every year.
Hey, we got new Star Wars, so
we got the last Star Wars. It's
Ever.
all done.
Forever.
There's no more.
There's no more. That's it.
It can never be done again. The end. That's it. That's the show.
Okay.
You got two and a half
Last
minutes.
episode.
We're out.
We're finally done.
No. So I guess we'll talk about Mandalorian first. I assume everyone's seen Rise of Skywalker that wants to see it by now because it's been
all three of our
3
listeners
weeks.
have seen it.
Right. Yeah, all three of them definitely. And Mandalorian just came out a couple days ago.
And I don't feel like we have anything spicy to say about Rise of Skywalker.
No.
Right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean,
Our
we'll get to it.
Sexism, that's all coming.
Yeah. Right. We'll get to it.
Right. So Mandalorian, the first season is done and it was fantastic.
It was.
The last episode was everything I really wanted the past 4 episodes to be. I felt like there was a lot of padding that wasn't super necessary.
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I feel like the padding was us getting to know the Mandalorian better and showing what he was made. Like the heist episode.
Right.
I would say that was probably, well, I don't know. Would you say that's the episode with the most padding, or the one in the swamp with the Raiders?
With the swamp people?
That felt like an episode of Clone Wars to me.
Kind of. Like one of those just between episodes.
Yeah. But it still, I mean, in the swamp episode, we found out that the Mandalorian, he wants to keep the child. He wants to keep he doesn't want to just get rid of it, Like the episode opens with him wanting to get rid of it, and he realizes by the end he can't because it's just going to die if he gets rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's useful to know, that motivation. And then the heist episode, you find out what he was actually capable of, I think, for the first time.
Capable of, and that he's like this, that he has honor. Like he has, he's not just he's not just a bounty hunter. He has a code. I mean, he has a creed. As a Mandalorian, it's not about just doing the job like most everyone else he works with.
Right. Everyone was telling him.
He keeps saying how no one needs to die. Like it's not necessary for people. Like we don't have to just go in and kill everyone.
Right.
So I get that we're building on the character. But with only 8 episodes, it's really hard to have episodes that really have nothing to do with the story other than little character bits.
I could see that, yeah.
while they're still good episodes, it's like, okay, if we have a full season like we do of other shows where there's, even if it was 12 episodes or, whatever, it's a little easier, I feel, to do that. But when there's like, all right, there's 8 episodes and there's only like maybe half of them really dive into the story.
Yeah. I guess so.
But I'm not saying any of them are bad. It's just I really wanted more.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. I wouldn't take out any of the episodes that we've had so far. Yeah, they're all good. They all served a purpose, I thought, when it came to the story, whether it was the story of the characters or the main story.
Right.
But yeah, the last 2 episodes were
really good.
Really good. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
No, I mean, it's really cool.
We didn't get any more information about what the Empire wants with McClunky.
Not at all. Other than, I mean, all we've really gotten is just how much this specific group of the Empire hates Mandalore and everything to do with it, and just wants to take all of their things.
Well, his Legion, Moff Gideon's Legion or whatever.
He seems to have some hard-on for Mandalorian stuff.
As we saw,
with
literally, he literally has a hard-on for Mandalorian stuff.
I mean, yeah, he's got the Darksaber of all things, right? Which last we knew was given to Bo-Katan, who is Satine's sister. So I'm guessing that person's dead now.
Yeah.
And with this whole purge of Mandalore, it's like this guy is taking their Beskar, taking their relics. He has something against Mandalorians for some reason.
The Darksaber, I mean, that's a big reveal. So yeah, for the last episode, there was we got the full scene of him as a kid being left behind and what happened there, assumingly during the purge.
No, he was just saved it was just during some occupation, like on his home world, because he's not Mandalorian.
Right.
He was just saved by some guardian angel Mandalorians, basically, that showed up to fight. So I don't know, because I don't think he is not, because like it was said in the episode, he's not Mandalorian.
Well, Mandalorian
is not a race.
Not a race, like they said. Right. It's a way of life, basically.
Yeah. So I don't think he was from Mandalore.
Yeah, probably not. But we did see in that scene that the army that was rescuing him, they all had House Vizsla signets on their armor.
The owners of the Darksaber.
Right. The
creator of the Darksaber.
Right. The creator, one of them was
Starter of Death Watch.
Starter of Death Watch and Mandalore, the ruler of Mandalorians for a while. But yeah, they were like the top ruling class for Mandalore.
Yeah, so if this guy was brought in and raised by House Vizsla, then he is probably very familiar with the Darksaber.
Yeah.
Once he knows that Gideon has it.
Right. And he comes from a line of, from a clan that is kind of destined to organize Mandalorians and rule them and...
Like probably the highest, like the best known, like the house of Mandalore. Right. So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
If anyone even knows that, right?
Right. I hope the heavy Mandalorian didn't die.
Yeah.
So we saw there was that kind of
the pile of armor.
Yeah, the Empire was kind of cleaning up the covert on whatever that planet was called. Navarro?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Dave Navarro.
Yes, on the Dave Navarro homeworld.
Great.
I hope he didn't die because I think we saw that he had a House Vizsla or a Clan Vizsla signet on his armor too.
Yeah,
didn't
I think he did.
So they could potentially be brothers in. I mean, not literally, but clan brothers.
Yeah.
House bros.
Armor buddies. But now he has his own signet of the Mudhorn, which was super cool looking.
That was cool. It was also cool that she was forging it as he was arriving. She was already doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
I've got this ready.
Right.
Slap it on
she was already working on
irons it on. Irons his patch onto his armor.
Hold still.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
The show's, I mean... Yeah, it's
The whole fight scene with when IG-11 came back on the speeder bike.
The whole first half of that episode, I feel like, is better than a lot than most action sequences we've gotten in any of the new Star Wars films.
That's probably true.
I mean, Taika did a really good job directing that episode.
Yeah,
Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's funny that his character like gets the most screen time in the episode in the one episode he directs, but it was really, really good.
There was like a 6-minute conversation between scout troopers in the very beginning,
right?
Who you found out were played by Jason Sudeikis and Adam Pally.
Yeah, which makes complete sense now.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking back on it, I watched it again, and just like the way they move and look at each other, I'm like, yeah, that's how those guys act normally.
Yeah.
And the fact that they couldn't shoot anything, like they're trying to shoot that little can on the ground, and they're both just like, whatever. Like, they can't hit it, and they're like 10 feet away.
That was so good. Yeah.
That was really funny, and that was very Taika as well. Like that's like in Thor Ragnarok type of stuff.
Just bullshitting around.
Yeah,
just
like
stuff.
Just scenes of just bullshitting around that are just good.
Yeah,
and make sense.
I don't know. I don't think. Could you have that in a
film
property? Yeah, stuff like that. I feel like that kind of stuff was attempted in Solo, and there was a little bit of it in Rise of Skywalker.
And that's the stuff people bitch about. It's like, there's too much.
There's too much laughing.
There's too much fun in my fun film. I want to have fun, not laugh.
But imagine a 5-minute long scene like that.
Has nothing to do. Doesn't really
I don't know
drive anything.
I don't know if you could get away with that.
I wonder
if that's the kind of stuff Phil and Chris were trying to do originally in Solo.
I mean,
with a little bit of improv type stuff.
You can get away with it with characters that don't matter.
Yeah, that get killed instantly and brutally by an assassin droid.
Smashed over and over into a speeder.
That was pretty crazy.
That'd be really interesting. I would like Taika to do a Star Wars movie. I want a Thor Ragnarok that's just about stormtroopers. Like I want Taika to make a movie about stormtroopers.
Maybe. I don't know.
I want
just stormtroopers?
I want Stormtrooper Police Academy by Taika Waititi.
Oh, jeez.
This is what we keep talking about.
What is Star Wars a joke now?
There has to be a Star Wars.
He can do the Star Wars cheers. I feel like he could do that pretty well, right?
Probably, yeah. Like where it's like, it can get serious and heartwarming, but also just be a bunch of people bullshitting for half an hour.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it's like Star Wars Curb Your Enthusiasm.
How do I contact him? All right, Taika, I've got an idea. I know you don't know me, but Star Wars cheers. The end. Think about it.
Go.
Yeah, that's the thing we keep talking about, right? Would you be allowed to make a Star Wars comedy for the purpose of it being a comedy, not just having humorous scenes within it?
Yeah, I don't think you could. I think it would be weird.
Kind of like those, like the what's the web series that was like, it was obviously Star Wars. Space Janitors. It was about the guys that were janitors on the Death Star,
right?
But it was all not Star Wars names,
right?
It's like obviously people have to make this stuff that's not directly Star Wars, but could you not get I don't know a movie about stormtroopers that's not a serious movie where it's just it's basically like
I don't know. I think it would
humorous like Thor Ragnarok is, where it's like humorous but serious at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone could do it, it would be Taika. There's very few directors I feel that can
balance those two feels.
That can nail that fine line that he does.
Feels. I just said feels.
Oh no, you're ruined.
What's happening? I'm ruined.
I will say for a Mandalorian,
I'm ruined. Like I'm like there's something wrong with me, or like because I've said that now I'm ruined.
Yeah, you're not allowed to speak ever again.
I'm canceled.
I find it interesting that the 2 episodes that Filoni directed were probably the worst 2 episodes. I feel.
Well,
the weakest episodes, maybe.
Well, did he do the second to last one? Which one did he do?
He did. What was
he didn't do the swamp one? That was Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm gonna look it up real quick because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Did he do? Well, he was in the second to last one. The second to last one was Deborah Chow, I think, right?
Yes, yeah, because she directed 2,
and he had a
those were really good
cameo
episodes.
as an X-wing pilot in that one, which was pretty good.
No, that was the one directed by the other guy,
Rick Ferger
Harji Jama.
Ferger Harbinger.
I'm pulling up the list. Give me a minute.
Burger Farben.
Burger farmer? What? Well, I guess technically the first episode was directed by Filoni, so I give him that.
That was a good episode.
Rick, yep.
Farbinger, yeah.
Famuyiwa.
Okay. Who also had a cameo as an X-wing pilot.
Yes.
In that same scene.
Right. Chapter 5, The Gunslinger.
Was a Filoni episode?
Yes, the one where he goes to Mos Eisley.
Mos Eisley.
The one with the one with with the stupid bounty hunter that was
that one
new.
Was pretty good. I liked that one. You didn't like it?
It was okay.
It was one of the more filler type episodes, sure. Right. Did we ever find out who the guy was that walked up to Fennec, what's her name's body?
Not at all. No, we have no idea.
Are we just missing something? I feel like we're missing something.
No,
there.
There was never referenced again. I'm assuming that's gonna have to come back up in season 2.
It wasn't Moff Gideon, was it? Was it Moff Gideon?
No, and we talked about that whole thing where the sound it made when walking up is the exact same sound that Boba Fett makes when showing up in Empire Strikes Back into the room with Darth Vader,
but it's not
which is just a cue. But I mean, it could be another Mandalorian. I mean, it could be anyone. But yeah, it was never referenced again, so we have no idea.
I don't know. All we know is that they had a cape and they had light colored boots. That's really all you saw.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Pretty much.
I thought that was weird that didn't. I didn't think about going back to figure out, or thinking back to that episode when watching for new characters and newer episodes. But yeah, I don't know.
I feel like there's so much stuff in this show that was created or popularized by Dave Filoni already, like the Darksaber and all the Mandalorian stuff. I love the guy, and he knows Star Wars.
Yeah.
We all know how we feel about Rebels. I feel like the more he works on Star Wars, the more he's just jerking himself off with the stuff that he's made.
Hey, remember this thing I did?
When I'm watching, as much as I've liked The Mandalorian, and I love it a lot, every time there's something more of a Filoni thing, I'm like,
come on,
just make a new thing, or just just do a Star Wars. Don't do a Filoni. It doesn't all have to be stuff you've done before, and you just keep throwing it at us. That's the only thing that's the only thing I would say about it. It's just like all the big hitting pieces, other than the baby thing. All the big hitting things are all just like, ha, it's the thing Filoni made. We're like, oh, Vizsla, or hey, Darksaber, oh, Mandalorians. You spent a whole bunch of arcs on them in your show. So I feel like there's this one side of like, well, I guess he's just getting to keep telling the stories that he started telling a long time ago.
I guess
in one way. I
think the other side of that is that he gets the language of Star Wars perfect in a way that the new movies don't really get.
Somewhat, yeah.
Just like the names for things and the references to things and just the way people refer to technology and locations and things like that in the universe. Right. He gets that all really right.
And I know Favreau wanted to do a Mandalorian thing based off of stuff he had seen, I think, from what Filoni had done.
Yeah.
So I get that that's the reason we're going here, but it just, I feel like it's just, he's just like marketing himself with the show sometimes. But it's good. I mean, they're using the good stuff that he made. It's not like, Ezra's shown up. That'd be
there's no time traveling
yet.
Yeah. So season 2 premieres fall next year,
2020.
and we're gonna get a continuation of this search to find McClunky's people, his planet.
So, yeah.
That was the mission he
until we find out that this thing is actually a time traveled baby Yoda. It literally
it's literally Yoda. Right. Oh boy.
No. No. Bob Iger has said the thing does have a name and he knows what it is. And that he was chastised by Favreau for calling it Baby Yoda the first time he saw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Bob Iger has at least stated the thing has a name and he knows it. So I guess at some point we'll get it. Okay. Just not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way we would ever know its name is we would have to find its people.
Yeah. Yeah, and they would have to know.
No one else gives a shit.
They would have to know what happened to him and where he came from and all that.
Why he was captured by space pirates? Like, what were those people that originally had him? They were just it was just a group of dudes.
They were oh, come on.
They were pirates. I mean, it seemed like pirates.
Yeah, they were basically pirates. What's his name?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I can't remember their race either. The guy from the
stuff.
The guy from Clone Wars
and Rebels.
And
he's at Galaxy's Edge now. Oh my gosh, the Jim Cummings character.
Yeah. Nope.
What's his name? Mm-mm. Wow, I can't remember
Captain
Margarine.
Captain Margarine?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, don't even look it up.
Nope.
Captain Margarine. He's Captain Margarine now.
Sure. Hondo.
Yes.
Hondo. Weequay. Weequay is the race. That's it.
No.
Yes.
Weequays? I thought it started with an N. There's another race that looks like Weequays.
That's another word.
No. no. Now. That's not what I was
the race starts with an N? All right, Michael. Remember how you're not supposed to talk anymore?
No, I'm already canceled once.
Great.
I'm ruined.
Fantastic.
Now I'm really ruined. No. Star Wars race that starts with an N.
Nanos.
It's like Nicotan or something like that.
Nicto. They're from Nicto. Nictonian. Nectarine. I don't know. I'm just
Nectarines. Nicto.
A tasty space fruit. Try yourself a nectarine. They are from Nicto, right?
Nicto. Yeah. They were a humanoid sentient species native to the planet Kintan.
Tin Can?
Yeah. Right. These guys.
There were those guys too. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys. They were that race, weren't they?
Some of them were, yeah.
I thought they were all that. They were all the same race.
Oh, were they? I thought there were some just regulars. Which is all space races. Some humans. Some regular people.
The basics.
Yeah. So I mean that's the whole thing is right.
Maybe I'm thinking of the swamp episode because those were all. I think those might have all been Nikto.
Oh, maybe. So I mean that's the thing, right? Is obviously the Empire or Gideon specifically is after this child. But why did other people have it in the first place that weren't trying to sell it?
Huh? What?
Like this group of people had it, but they weren't trying to sell it. They were protecting it.
Oh, I feel like Queel explained at some point where they came from.
He said people keep coming after the thing,
right?
After the child.
But I feel like he mentioned something about how it got there and them bringing it here.
But they were just protecting it. It seemed too.
I can't remember.
So is there a group that was also trying to protect it from getting captured?
I don't think they were trying to protect it. I think they were trying to
take it for their own.
I think they had stolen it from somewhere, Then
why not just sell it to the guy that wants it for all the money?
I don't know. Maybe they had another purpose for it.
Yeah. So
I didn't feel like that they had good intentions for it.
Maybe not. It was just a bassinet in a storage room.
Right.
So who knows?
It wasn't on a throne or anything.
Right. They weren't worshiping it. So I mean, there's obviously season 2 and we don't know how many seasons there's going to be, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
We just know there's going to be a season 2, but they haven't said that's going to be it.
Right.
So that'll be interesting as well.
Yeah, we got the Mandalorian's name.
Yep. We got his
In
face.
this one, and his face, which I thought the way they did that with IG-11 was perfect.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Saying that he wasn't a living being.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
So he didn't have to
And
violate. He kept his honor. He didn't have to violate his code.
And he finally trusted a droid.
Yeah.
Because that was his whole thing, right?
Right.
Obviously, he's been untrusting of droids because they killed his family,
right?
And
They
were,
almost
wiping out all these people.
They almost killed him,
and then so he's just always had this distrust of droids ever since. And then finally trusted a droid that then sacrificed his life for him.
Yeah,
too, which was kind of cool.
It would be cool if he ran into an exiled Jedi.
An actual Jedi?
Yeah, in season 2. Because I feel like they're pulling that Force thread a little bit. They pulled that.
Yeah, they mentioned the Jedi more at the end. How they were, or in
the last episode.
Yeah, how they were enemies of Mandalorian, or Mandalorians considered them enemies.
How the armorer knew about, she knew about the legends of the Jedi. She knew about the Force. She called the Jedi sorcerers.
Right, and I mean, and that's the other cool thing too that I like. How, at least something I like that they're doing too is showing how Cara Dune and Din and Grief, none of them knew what the Force was.
Right.
They've never heard of it before.
Right.
They have no idea. He's he moves things with his mind. She's like, oh yeah, I've heard about this. How it's again giving us that picture of just how little of a window we've been watching this Star Wars world with the trilogies and all the films and even Clone Wars and Rebels.
Right.
All the stuff. I mean, the galaxy, there's so much stuff that has happened with Force users, with the parts that we've watched, that we just assume it's this big grand thing. But half the world has, half the universe has no idea what was going on or what was, what any of this is. They're, especially these more, outer rim, backworld planets.
Which I think serves the greater story in the new trilogy that, is setting up that the Jedi are all legends and myths at this point.
Right. Yeah.
That nobody even knows. So 5 years after the end of the Empire, nobody even knows.
Yeah, these people don't even know what the Force is.
Right.
It wasn't like there's this
people
big,
weren't even sure that
story.
People weren't even aware that Palpatine was a Sith.
Right.
He's just the throughout the whole timeline of the original trilogy.
Right. He was just the Emperor as far as they were aware.
Right.
So I like that, just setting up the universe for. I mean, we've had such a small piece that we've seen, whereas all these other people and planets and things have nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah, it's all legends and myths to them, right? Yeah, it was cool. I'm excited for season 2. I'm excited to see if they pull this Force thread a little more, see what happens with McClunky.
Interesting.
See what happens with the covert. If
yeah,
there are any Mandalorians left.
I wonder if it'll just pick right back up where it was, or if there's some sort of they've time jump. They've been in hiding for a while, and something happens that they're finding them again.
Yeah, I wonder.
I mean, the thing's still a baby at 50 years old. It's not like it's going to age or look much older unless we do another 50-year time jump, and then the Mandalorian's dead at that point. So I feel like this thing is always going to be a baby in the show.
Probably.
It's probably never going to be able to speak.
He's the sidekick.
Right. I don't think it's ever going to start speaking.
Yeah.
Probably. Unless it starts speaking into his mind with the Force. But yeah, I mean, I assume we're going to have to run into other whatever these things are called, which they have to give us a name for these by the end of the show.
Yeah.
By the end of the show, we have to have a race. They have to give that to us, don't they?
Yeah. I feel like Filoni loves to tease and string people along. So maybe it's just going to be that.
There's a name for these things somewhere that someone's had for probably.
Well, I'm sure they have it already. They've.
I know.
Figured out at least.
And they just refuse to tell us all these years. It's the secret recipe. They've just had the name of what Yoda is in a box somewhere, in a vault, waiting to use it.
Yeah, break in emergency.
Right.
In case of emergency.
Yeah, in case of low, in case of
low,
low interest,
bad quarter.
In case of low interest, break glass, and then everyone's back into Star Wars because we know what Yodas are now.
When we get the answer, it's going to be disappointing, though.
Frogman.
Which segues into Rise of Skywalker.
When we get the answer is disappointing. No, I was not disappointed at all.
No, I actually have a completely opposite point of view about Rise of Skywalker.
If you haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, turn this off now. Go see it. You're stupid for not having already. The end. It was, I really, really, really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed it. I probably can't say that I enjoyed it immensely, but
yeah,
only because. True. But I think the net result after everything
averaging out
all of the wins and the losses,
right? When you count the oohs and the ahs and the yeses and
the
average is good.
You end up with something that this is good. This is a good Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
that I enjoy watching, and I will own it, and I will watch it many times, right. And I will be happy.
I will be happy.
I will be happy about this.
Yeah. The movie started out so fast. Like there was just so much happening in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Where it was really hard to keep track of where we're at, what's been going on, who did what now.
Right. Who's that?
Yeah.
What's a Palpatine?
What, where? When? How? That to me was the part, when it first started, it felt almost like JJ was trying to play catch up to the story he was trying to tell a little bit to me.
Yeah.
Where it's okay, I know what story I want to tell and finish now. Let me catch you up to where we need to be. It felt like a very forced, we have to catch up to the story because we don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Because some of that stuff would have been really interesting. I mean, that opening scene with Kylo, that's on Mustafar, apparently.
Mm-hmm. It is.
According to the visual dictionary, right?
Yep.
It's interesting the amount of information the visual dictionary adds to the film for this one.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they just had so much stuff they wanted to cover that they had to cut so much that the visual dictionary fills in a lot of holes that were probably going to be in the film if they didn't have to cut for time or other reasons.
I have a lot to say about that. We could get to that.
Because there's a lot of that out there, talking about how they feel like you're having to get answers outside of the movie because they didn't have time to actually give you the answer in the movie for some of it.
Well, but I think it was more intentional.
Possibly.
On JJ's part. I think he intentionally left things out of the movie in an attempt to, according to him, leave things open to interpretation. And I don't think, I have a lot to say about that.
Right.
I don't think it came off as maybe as well as he intended it to.
Yeah.
But I want to get to that in a second. First of all, I want to say the beginning of the movie, as rushed as it felt,
it's still good.
I loved Kylo's motivation. So he hears the Emperor, okay, let's just accept that the Emperor's back now and we don't really know how yet and blah, blah, blah.
The crawl doesn't even tell us how.
Right. The crawl is the thing that tells us the Emperor is back, and we don't even see that outside of the crawl, which is...
I have feelings about
it's
that,
a little strange. But, okay, accept that that's the case.
Right.
Kylo's first reaction when he hears that the Emperor is back is, I need to destroy him because he's a threat to my power. Right.
No, mine.
I love that. It's perfect.
It makes sense.
That's exactly who Kylo is. He anything that threatens his domain, him being the supreme and the biggest guy on the skate park.
Yeah. He's got that big dick energy
right.
to go kill the Emperor, which he should just, that's just the mention of the Emperor. He should be afraid, I would think.
Well,
right?
he's an idiot teenager, basically. Right. I love it. It's perfect to his character. So anyway, him kicking ass all over the universe, stealing things from Vader's castle.
Right.
Or wherever that Wayfinder was on Mustafar.
Mm-hmm.
To go find the Emperor and kill him.
Right.
I thought that was great.
I feel like having a Wayfinder just on a slab in the middle of a forest probably isn't the best place to keep a relic.
I wondered about that. I thought I saw in the visual dictionary somewhere that it said it was in Vader's castle, but it really looked like it was just in the middle of the forest.
They were dragging it out of the castle into the woods, trying to get it away from him. That's why he was having to
It really did look like it was, that it was just out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I don't know what was up with that. But those people that he was fighting in the beginning were cultists.
Right.
They were like cultists who
Sith cultist.
Yeah, who were basically have kept up Vader's castle in the meantime. That
His caretakers
worshipped it, and yeah,
that makes sense.
I thought that was interesting too. That he was attacking and destroying these cultists who worship the same spirit that he does, essentially.
Right.
I thought that was interesting.
And Snoke had a ring with a piece of Vader's castle, right?
Some obsidian, collected from around there.
Vader's castle.
Something
so
like that.
Ties back to him being involved in all this.
Right.
Which we'll get to how right I was soon.
Which part?
About Snoke.
I'm resentful about that.
I know. I'm well aware. We'll discuss it at length.
Okay. What do you want to discuss it now? Because that's the next part. Literally, the next scene after what we're talking about is
right.
This.
Yeah, that's true.
Is this reveal?
So you get to Exegol, and there's a whole tube of Snokes.
a literal tank of Snokes.
Referencing an episode title of this show, there was a whole race of Snokes in that tube.
Yes.
So we don't know if Snoke was a race or if whatever that is just having been created.
Yeah, was he created from scratch? Was he a thing?
That's why he looks shitty, because he was made from scratch for people that didn't know how to make things.
Was he a thing who existed on his own and was cloned?
Right. Because there were other versions of him, in a tube.
3 of them. And they were whole, not cut in half.
They were whole, so it wasn't his pieces. They were growing new ones off of the pieces that had been cut apart.
It's it's the adult Snoke top half and the little baby little baby Snoke legs on the bottom half.
Right. It's like it's like Deadpool with his baby his baby legs.
Right.
So Palpatine says basically he created Snoke and was, controlling him, or in control of pretty much the whole situation from the start.
So I watched it again today. His line was, "Boy, I made Snoke." Yeah. I feel like you could interpret that different ways.
The fact that he has a tube kind of seems very literal, that he made Snoke.
Yeah.
Or is, I don't know.
I guess so. I guess that's
keeping them on ice until he needs another one.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah. But I mean, that's not to say I would not assume that he was, possessing or controlling Snoke. Snoke was following orders from Palpatine. Is the way I take that.
Yeah.
Right. Snoke was either, raised, brought about as an acolyte or part of this whole acolyte religion, this whole acolyte thing, the Sith religion that's happening on Exegol with all these acolytes that are there. And I'm assuming he was somehow part of that and was made and given the charge to go do this thing.
To lead this first order.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's where, we still don't have that story. Well, one, we don't know how Palpatine is still around. They didn't really give us that at all.
Yeah.
He either that's his actual body and he didn't fully die, or he did die and that's his body and they were able to bring his spirit back, or that's just another old body and they brought his spirit back. Or, there's a lot of options there where it's not explained at all, and how he survived, the Death Star and the explosion, and how he made Snokes and what these acolytes are about and how they got it right. There's a whole story there that I assume we'll get something about at some point.
Yeah, I feel like his whole plan it's just muddy.
Right.
Even the thing with Rey, keeping her alive as a girl, I was trying to trace through all of that in my head driving out of the movie. But then you add to that Snoke and the First Order and how they were allowed to be kind of independent and the face of Palpatine's plan while Palpatine was kind of in the shadows, developing this bigger fleet.
Right.
It's almost like they were a distraction, but they didn't know that they were a distraction. None of the command, First Order command, save for Allegiant General Pride, knew that Palpatine was even around. Kylo found it out when Palpatine revealed himself.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. And there was that whole scene with the First Order boardroom meeting, basically.
Yeah.
Where they were all talking about how Palpatine was offering this fleet, and some of them were skeptical about it.
Like,
and
what does he want in return?
Right.
And that's the guy that gets choked out on the ceiling.
Right. Which was intense.
Yeah.
That was a good scene. But yeah, like it's I don't know. It's just it's kind of muddy. I can't quite figure it all out.
Yeah, I feel like some of the Palpatine storyline is really messy.
It's very obvious that it was kind of forced
a little bit
in there.
And I'm sure they'll flesh it out like they have with everything else to do with Palpatine. I mean, honestly, most of all of the books and other things have been fleshing out more of what Palpatine has done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. I mean, there is still that whole rumor that it's not rumored. Whatever Project Luminance is, or Project Luminous is.
Oh, true.
There's supposed to be books and novels and comics and something coming this upcoming year about Project Luminous.
Project Fix the Rise of Skywalker.
Maybe. And one of the main guys that's part of it has said it's not about Ben, because people were starting to assume, oh, maybe it's about Ben.
Interesting.
And they've said it's not, and that they said it's not about Ben. This one author did.
Interesting.
So it could be like this whole trail of like, here's what Palpatine was doing the whole time.
Right.
Like, like rewinding back and telling the story of Palpatine. That could be, I don't know why it'd be called Luminous, because he's not that. But
Luminous, that's illuminating, though. That's what
maybe. I mean, that to me, that would make the most sense for the next big arc of Star Wars novels and Journey to things they've done in the past. This would be like the, Journey to everything that just happened.
Yeah, right.
I think that would make sense. So maybe we'll get that.
Back to the Future.
Right. Maybe we'll get that with this upcoming series. But yeah, that's the only thing. Out of everything in the movie, I feel like I think the stuff with Palpatine was really cool. But I think when you really think about the storyline, it's like, okay, you didn't really answer anything or tell us anything. It's just, there's a lot of assumptions you have to make to go with it.
Yeah. And that kind of gets at what I wanted to talk about a little bit. With JJ saying in several interviews that he was a fan of how the original trilogy didn't answer a lot of questions.
And it just kind of threw you into stuff.
Right. And just kind of threw you into stuff. And you did kind of have to make some assumptions in order to follow.
Right.
But I was thinking about this. The original trilogy, when it first came out, there was nothing else. There was no lore.
Right.
There was no history that we knew of outside of what we were seeing in the movies.
Right. It's a completely different world.
Right.
Now.
It was
because of Star Wars.
Exactly. So with this new trilogy, so there was the original trilogy, no lore, all of that. Then come the prequels, and some gaps have been filled in a little bit, and the prequels were all answers. This is how things in the original trilogy were set up and happened.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't, and they didn't really raise any big questions. It was all like, this is how it all happened.
Yeah.
This is what led up to the situation in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
With this new trilogy, I feel like JJ, being the one who's done 2 of the 3 movies, tried to do the same thing as the original trilogy, but pull from this history in the original trilogy. Like he tried to set up this thing that like raised a bunch of questions, and it was, trying to make you think about, well, how could this have happened? And and you can't really do that because we have all of these gaps filled in. It's in service to the original trilogy, right, and the prequels that have established this thing, this timeline of events and this history and this galaxy and everything. It has to fit into all of that.
Right.
It can't just raise a bunch of questions for question's sake.
Right.
It has to give answers.
Especially being the last thing.
Right.
Like, you're wrapping up this huge story, and you're really giving us more questions than we really had going into it at this point.
Right. It's
which is
like I said, it seems like questions for question's sake.
And that's where people feel like, okay, they left a lot of questions in, and then a lot of those questions are answered when you look at the visual dictionary and stuff like other stuff like that, where there's answers about characters and
Right. It doesn't
there's
have to
more
be
information about those things in other stuff where it's like, well, why even raise the question in the first place in the film
right.
if you're going to give us that information? Just it seems like
like some. I would argue some core story points are in the visual dictionary.
Yeah, it really does fill in a lot, and I don't know if they had to cut that stuff because for time, because it was already over 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Or if it was just him trying to make it mysterious like the original trilogy was.
Right.
Well, you can make it mysterious when nothing like this has ever existed before.
Exactly. So it's the fact that they tried to go back to the well of the original trilogy with Palpatine.
Right.
That when you make that decision, you have to provide some answers that led to that point. You can't just, if this was a brand new thing and they were starting over and there weren't any links to the past, then I think, yeah, maybe you can kind of drop people into something and raise questions and get people to try to figure it out. But you're going back to the well, you're pulling history into this new trilogy. So you have to link them.
Right.
You can't just drop people into it and be like, oh, what about this?
And that's where I feel like the crawl at the beginning, where it's like the dead speak, and it's like throwing you into this story.
Yeah.
You could do that with the original trilogy because you are just throwing us into a universe and a story that is in the middle of happening.
That's new to us.
That we've not known before.
Right.
But like I also think when I see that crawl, I'm like, how powerful of a scene would it have been to have witnessed the Emperor's voice suddenly shocking the world by broadcasting,
have some
to everyone.
Context for it. Yeah.
That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like
give us a window into how that happened.
And that's where I feel like if JJ had been able to do the whole trilogy, like what a badass fucking way it would have been to end The Last Jedi with that message from the Emperor. And the movie to end with like, holy what? And like the movie ends with this broadcast from the Emperor, and that's the cliffhanger, right?
Yeah.
If you have this, and that's where a lot of people have said, like, I don't care if you like Ryan or you like JJ or you don't like one or the other, but I feel like the trilogy as a whole probably would have been serviced better by one of them just doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
I agree. It would have been told as a sequential story with a full through line that they would have been able to build these things to that point where they're able to pay off.
Right.
And instead of having to throw in a bunch of stuff at the front end of your movie to be able to pay it off with your same movie.
I feel like you could have the exact same story that we have now, just told in a more clear way. Like don't change anything about the story, whatever, however you feel about, Rey's connection to Palpatine and all that stuff, which I guess we'll talk about in a minute, but
sure.
However you feel about that whole story, you could have that exact same story and have one person do it all and plan it from the beginning, and it could be more clear and the reveals be more impactful and all that.
Right. And again, it's not to say I don't enjoy the movie and that I don't enjoy the beats.
I think that's one of the most upsetting things is how good The Last Jedi is to have to say, well, it kind of, through no fault of Ryan, through no fault of the movie itself, it kind of upset the trilogy.
Well, to other people in more ways than one, right? But yeah, like it feels like.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying it in the way that other people saying it, in that it ruined Star Wars. I'm saying it kind of, I don't know, not rock the boat. That's not a good way to put it.
No, it's like it
threw off the
Force
momentum.
Awakens. There was the Force Awakens, and then Ryan serviced the Force Awakens with what he did with The Last Jedi.
Very well.
He wasn't able to service the Rise of Skywalker because he did. I don't know how much he knew was going to actually happen or not.
Right.
Apparently, there was a lot of conversation between the two.
And JJ tried to go back to some of the storylines he introduced in Force Awakens without acknowledging where it was going.
JJ was also trying to service The Force Awakens without fully servicing The Last Jedi.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people.
I think what we're saying is the real problem here is we need to be serviced.
Well, that's what I tell my wife most days, and she then just
listen. This is the real problem here. There needs to be servicing.
And that's when she just throws things at me and then tells me to leave. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough line to walk where it's like, I think no one, it's again, that feeling where I wonder how much of the big picture they actually had when they were making each movie. Even though they say they were talking about stuff and talking between each other. Obviously, Carrie Fisher dying probably ruined a lot of stuff. Like we talked about that before, where I wonder how much they really had planned for Leia being the trainer of Rey and being a whole part of this story that they just had to not do anymore.
Right.
So I wonder how much of that then they had to just completely rebuild, or if the stuff with the Emperor really was planned from the beginning or not.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if it was, they would have built to it a little better than they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I still enjoy the plot points and the story that got told.
Yeah.
It's
How would you feel if in Force Awakens, if there was a hint dropped that the Emperor had lived? I think it would have worked.
Possibly.
If it was very minor, and if it was just hinted that Snoke was answering to someone else.
Like not knowing it's the Emperor, just knowing that someone else was in charge of Snoke.
Okay, maybe. Yeah.
Like still leaving it ambiguous.
Maybe.
And then at the end of The Last Jedi, hearing that transmission from the Emperor, like being the cliffhanger going into Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, potentially.
I feel like there would have been a better way to link the three movies together.
Yeah.
Because of as far as trilogies go, they do feel poorly linked just because of how different they are. And even though they're servicing the same story, they are very it's very janky transitions.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, Attack of the Clones exists. And it was
that's
the jankiest of films.
That's what I was trying to think too. But see, it's hard to compare those two things. Because like I said, the prequels have a different purpose.
Yeah, they were serving a purpose of like
just giving us background.
And here's the story that led to this.
Yeah, they were giving us background to everything.
Sure. So it had to. It didn't have to create any. It didn't have to make anything.
And when the same type of references were used in this modern trilogy, like Palpatine,
right?
It didn't do the same thing. They didn't give us any background or any answers about what has happened since. They were just kind of dropped in
a little bit.
You know,
I don't know. I mean, we're picking nits because we both love it.
Sure, of course.
It's an odd feeling to be able to love Star Wars and not just shit on it, and also not just praise it. Like we,
I feel
like most people, like I feel like it's okay to complain about something being janky and still like it.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the internet is just yelling that they either love a thing or don't like a thing, and you can't have any. Well, there's no constructive criticism in between.
I think in saying this, it doesn't mean that we're done or or that this was ultimately a bad thing.
Because I don't know if we've said this on the show, but it's something like you and I have talked about before. We've probably said it on the show. We've said too much on this show. Where it's like there's two sides to Star Wars for me. There's the fact that it is technically a film that people had to make and write and do. And so from a storytelling perspective and a writing perspective and an acting perspective,
there are limitations.
And a filmmaking perspective, there are choices that I'm like, all right, that wasn't good writing, or that wasn't good whatever, or however that goes.
Yeah.
There's that. But then there's also the documentary I just watched called The Rise of Skywalker that was a history story of a thing that happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
We have talked about this,
where that is a documentary. What I saw happened, I can't do anything about that. I think the analogy we've used before is like, World War II happened. There's a lot of proof it happened. This is a documentary. I'm not trying to undo,
we've talked about this.
People that are now trying to say Nazis didn't exist or the whole thing with Hitler wasn't real. You've heard of this, right?
No.
The Holocaust deniers.
Well, okay, Holocaust, that's different from saying that not Hitler
Nazis,
didn't exist.
The Holocaust that Hitler actually caused.
Yeah.
Like there's Holocaust deniers, right?
Okay, right.
That would be like, to me, that's like telling me that Star Wars didn't
sit over
happen.
Here saying that people think Hitler didn't exist.
Well, the things Hitler did,
that's impossible to believe.
Right. So there's it's that's a horrible situation. Don't deny the Holocaust. It's a real thing that happened. Anyone that doesn't believe it is a horrible, horrible person and shouldn't be alive.
Yes, absolutely.
So forget any of that just happened. But like World War II happened, and there are documentaries and there's stories about it, and that's
I think you're trying to make the comparison.
It doesn't have to be World War II. The Civil War happened. Slave sting. What war is a good one? None of them. Okay, fair point.
Let's see. Vietnam War. Wait, no.
That's not a good one to bring up. None of them are good. Why don't we have good wars? What happened to the good ones?
No one's ever thought of that? Just have a good war.
Let's just have a friendly fight.
A happy war.
Let's just have a good fight. Let's just go out there and have a good fight.
I feel like there was probably a Canadian good war or something.
They threw presents at each other.
Well, I think you were trying to make the comparison somewhat of the people who say the people who complain about the choices made in Star Wars films aren't seeing it from in universe. They're not putting themselves in universe and saying these are events that all happened.
I am not able to do that because either, according to my wife, I'm broken. Like I mentioned to this once, and she's like, "You're a crazy person." It's like you realize that is weird and crazy and doesn't make sense.
It's not though.
She's like, "That's psychotic." Where it's like,
I don't think you understand the attachment, or she doesn't. She doesn't understand the attachment that we have.
But as attached as many people are, I don't know many people other than you that have that feeling of like, okay, I see a Star Wars movie. Everything that just happened in that movie happened.
And it's our job now to...
That is the story that happened in Star Wars.
Figure out, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I cannot complain about it. I cannot change it. That is history. That is the history now.
It's literally canon.
And I don't feel that way about any. I don't feel that way about any other movie or thing. Right. Sure. I don't have that big of an attachment to any other thing like that.
I was thinking about that the other day. Star Wars is the only thing I can think of that has been created. Like it is the source material. There's no other source material. I was trying to think of other big franchises that didn't start from something else.
Avatar? Well, that's just Pocahontas.
Well, there's only been one of those so far, though.
There's going to be 72 more.
Well, okay. In 50 years, we'll come back and we'll talk about Avatar then.
Yeah, you'll be lucky if it's only 50 for the next 6. We'll die and he'll still be working on 3.
Jeez.
But I mean,
that
other
true. Things have had a source material that's kind of had time to...
And if you really pick nits, I mean, the source material is Japanese... is these what is it, the Hidden Tower, is that what it's called?
Well, yeah, like it's like saying like samurai movies and
the exact story beats of A New Hope, essentially.
Yeah.
Which I mean it's
those are inspiration.
Everything is inspired by something, right?
Yeah, those are inspirations, not really.
But it is that psychotic brokenness of when I see a Star Wars movie or read a Star Wars book.
Yeah,
I can say a book was written poorly.
Mm-hmm.
But I am unable to say that the things that happened within the book didn't happen.
Right.
Right. Where it's like I'm just gonna forget.
That's where I was going with that.
There's this
like say you read the Harry
connection.
Say you read the Harry Potter series, you can't really read that and say, "Oh, I don't like that this character did this and that way." It's like that's the material. That's the story you're experiencing.
And I guess that's another good example, Harry Potter, where people, I mean.
But that's from a source material is what I'm saying. Like it came from the books, and the books you read the books. You can't sit there and say, I don't like that it happened this way. I wish it was something different.
But you can.
I don't know. Well, you can, but it doesn't make sense. You can say to do that.
But you can say that about Star Wars. I can't. I find it impossible. I don't feel that way about it.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't say that about these books in the same way that you can't really say that when you're watching a Star Wars movie. Like this is the story.
Right.
You can't argue with the story. It is what it is.
So it's like it's this weird thing. If I can say I don't like the way they wrote, I don't like the way they wrote some of the Rise of Skywalker. But when I'm talking about what things that happened in Rise of Skywalker,
you don't like the way that the story was communicated.
It's weird that the Emperor did that. Like it's not like it's weird that they wrote for the Emperor to do that. Like it's just
I understand.
That's a strange choice he made when he did that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Also, there was some weird writing in that movie. Yeah. Like it's this. I don't know. This is my confession to being insane. Which is why we have this podcast, is not to just
it's a
review the films.
hokey religion.
It is. It is this religious thing.
We said the name.
Right.
We're done.
It is a religion, and my wife thinks I'm insane. So please donate to my GoFundMe.
What's your GoFundMe?
Or what's the other one? When
What is your Kickstarter?
No, what's the other one when you're sick and you need money?
That's a GoFundMe.
Okay, that. I've got that. I'm sick. Help.
I got Star Wars cancer.
I've got the space sickness. I don't know. It's so the Rise of Skywalker happened. So now I want to read more of the history books of what happened in the Emperor's story.
Yeah.
I feel like there were some odd choices from a filmmaking standpoint and some interesting writing in the Rise of Skywalker from a filmmaking standpoint, but like you can't deny the film happened.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah.
Which is what a lot of people try to do to the Last Jedi. Where's that whole, like, it's not my Luke. I'm just this didn't happen, basically. Like that's not how Luke would be.
That I was gonna bring that up again. I don't like that it. We've talked many times before about how I love Luke's story in The Last Jedi. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
And I understand it. It's so deeply grounded. It feels so
it's very
relatable. Yeah, exactly. It's very human. It makes sense from beginning to end, his journey about where he got to where he was. And then him redeeming himself at the end was amazing.
Yeah.
In this movie, he references that time period, and he said that he made a mistake.
Right.
Which is something he realized at the end of Last Jedi, which is why he went off and did what he did and became that, accepted that legend status, basically. And then, he talked about how it was motivated by fear. All these things were covered in Last Jedi very well. And I feel like if you watch that movie, it explains those lines in Rise of Skywalker. But I think those lines in there, it's feeding the trolls. And I don't like that now I'm going to have arguments with people who are like, right, Rise of Skywalker undoes everything the Last Jedi set up.
I've heard people
because
say
Luke says he admits it himself. He made a mistake. It's like, why even have that? I'm very selfish and I don't want to have those arguments with people.
That's the kind of person that you respond with, well, what, you've never made a mistake? And they're like, no, I haven't. I'm perfect. And then they march off. And
then they stomp off and run into a glass door.
Meant to do it! On purpose! And then they, slam into something else. That too! There's that type of person where it's like, no one makes mistakes. Everything is perfect. I'm perfect. You're perfect. We're all perfect. There's no.
So I'm in kind of a weird place with Rise of Skywalker because of those kinds of moments where I guess I understand where the story is and how the characters got to where they are and why they're saying and doing the things that they're doing. Right. But
don't talk about it anymore. They finally shut up.
Right. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm saying. I just.
Well, I feel like there were a lot of
there were these some moments like that I felt were kind of cringy a little bit, even though I could explain them.
There were a lot of moments in the movie that were trying to high five every group. It's like Last Jedi, yeah, Reylo, yeah, R2, yeah. Like there's just everyone was getting a high five. JJ was just going down the line, high fiving all the groups.
Yeah.
Like
okay, yeah.
Where's just everyone gets a high five.
Yeah, like, I can see that.
You get what you want, and you get what you want.
You get your kiss, and you get your you get Rey's parents, and
right. Right, yeah. It was just every like sect of Star Wars fandom got a high five in this to try to please them with one part of the film. That is that is probably one of my bigger complaints of the whole thing. Is it felt very like full fan servicey.
I'd say
let's make everyone happy about one thing.
I'd say if you had to pick one movie out of the entire 9 movies that was the most fan servicey, this one was.
Right.
But I wouldn't say that it was all fan servicey.
No, probably not. I don't know.
But there were definitely moments. Yeah, that were very fan service.
Here's the thing you've asked for, and here's the thing you've asked for, and and I don't know if whether it's.
You don't like big planet-sized super weapons? You get a whole fleet of them.
You get a man-sized super weapon. Yeah. And then, all of space falls out.
That was one of the coolest scenes in the movie, I would say.
As I mentioned to you personally, that was probably the closest thing to a brown note I've ever heard, where it just makes your insides hurt, and you're pretty sure you're going to shit internally. It's real.
Shit internally.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That's everyone all the time.
No. It's not where it's supposed to be anymore.
I don't understand.
It's gone other places.
You're always shitting internally. What are you talking about?
Nope. It's not in the right place anymore.
Shitting isn't coming out.
It's gone elsewhere. The second time I saw the movie, I saw it in an Atmos theater.
Nice.
So I saw it in Atmos. So that sound was your intestines uncoiled and recoiled when it happened. There was reorganization of everything in your body.
I have to see that.
Yeah, it was amazing in an Atmos theater with the screen and then also the sound. And that noise was just it hurt. It hurt good. But yeah, that was a really cool scene. Yeah. Just the movie had lots of good things. I just feel from a storytelling and movie making standpoint, there was a lot of rough patches. But I liked it as a Star Wars movie.
But like I said in the very beginning, I think the net result, there were the good things about this movie are really good, I think.
Right.
They're not, I don't think they're any mediocre, just kind of, it's it's either really good or really bad.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not like
I really enjoyed the Pisana planet. And I know
that was really cool.
I've seen a lot of people complaining about why that was necessary. I really enjoyed it. I love the world building part of it. I actually like the fact that Lando's there.
Right.
It's a little convenient, but okay.
But he had helped Luke looking for this thing before, so I mean, it made sense. I don't know why he stayed there.
He settled down there.
Yeah. I mean, just that, and then bringing it back to that ship from The Force Awakens, which we totally called way back in the trailer that was the same ship, that Jedi Hunter, which was really cool. Bringing that back and kind of tying that together again, servicing The Force Awakens more than Last Jedi, but I don't know. I mean, as a trilogy goes, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that love the prequels, and I enjoy the prequels for what they are. I will forever firmly believe that Attack of the Clones is not a good film.
Yeah.
It's just not a good movie.
I'd say it's the worst Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I would agree. And I know people that love it and say it's one of their favorites, and I don't understand that. But
well, even that though, even the worst Star Wars movie has really good moments in it.
It does.
And it's still a Star Wars movie. You know? It's not I will never, people ask me all the time, somebody asked me after I saw Rise of Skywalker for the first time, all right, rank the new movies. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't rank Star Wars movies. It's all Star Wars to me.
Well, it's even the original trilogy, each of the movies is so very different from each other.
Yeah.
Where it's
I can say what my personal favorite movies are.
Right.
I don't think I could say here 1 through 9. This one's the best, and this one's next, and this blah blah blah. I don't think I can. Yeah, and I can, without hesitating, say that Attack of the Clones is the worst one. So maybe that constitutes as a rank.
That's just, and for me, again, it's not the Star Wars story part of that movie that's bad. It is just a bad movie. From a technical standpoint of filmmaking and writing, it's not good.
Yeah.
As a human being, you know that
most
of the things that happened shouldn't have been approved. I mean, that's where I'm at with that. It's from a technical standpoint, why did any of that happen? Yeah. From a writing and everything, it's just I don't get it.
Right.
But I mean, it's I don't know. Each of the prequel trilogy movies had their purpose, and I would say the Revenge of the
the story of Attack of the Clones is absolutely necessary.
Oh yeah, it's required.
And I don't think I would change anything about the story.
No.
honestly, any of the prequels.
No.
I think all of that story was necessary. All of it. I wouldn't change any of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, the new trilogy followed the same pattern and arc of the other two trilogies.
The originals?
I mean, the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. I mean, they have a very clear, like, peak and valley method to them, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, it's still
They're
very much
Star Wars movies.
It's still very much Star Wars and following the pattern of Star Wars. And I think people still wanted something to be, like, crazy and new and different.
But see, people want that, but
then they
don't know what they're asking for. Right.
Exactly.
You're
not going to get that in a trilogy, in a trilogy film that's wrapping up the trilogy that we've known so far.
Because
you're not going to divert that much to finish this out.
Right.
You're going to get that in something else.
Think about the choices that were made in the modern trilogy that were new and out there.
And everyone complained.
Right. And people complain about that stuff.
I think it all made sense, to me at least, that all the choices were good. I like all the story. I think now, like you said,
as a whole,
it did raise more questions, which I believe they're going to give us the answers to. I feel bad that we have to get answers for the new trilogy, and it didn't fully wrap it up on its own.
Yes,
that's the only
disappointment that I feel.
That's the one place I sit where I'm like, it was really good. It's crazy that it's all done, but at the same time, like, I don't feel that it is done because there's still a lot of story to be told about how it got done.
Yeah,
how they done did it. How he do that?
Excuse me, how you do that?
Mr. Emperor.
How you do that?
How do? Yeah, I don't know.
Do we want to talk about the Rey Palpatine thing?
I mean, yeah.
So the one thing I feel like the one thing we've been saying this whole time is that Rey doesn't need to be related to anybody.
She still doesn't. She still didn't need to be. From a storytelling standpoint, I don't feel that she had to be related to him for any of that to happen. And
again, the qualifier being she is related to Palpatine. That's the story. That's who she is. That's who she's been from the very beginning.
Cannot be changed or undone.
And so I actually went into this movie knowing that and specifically looking for things like choices that she made, weighing that against who she really was and what was potentially going on inside of her mind, and like the whole losing control thing with the transport, that she has that power and that potential, and she's been fighting that. There's several hints laid along the way for that. I like all of that. I think that makes sense. That's the story.
Yeah, from the story they told, it makes sense. I guess it's fine.
But like we've been saying, I don't feel any differently now from what we've been saying. She didn't need to be a Palpatine in order for that story to have worked.
No, and as far as she's concerned, she never was a Palpatine. I mean, her parents pretty much were nobodies that were hiding on Jakku.
Yeah.
I mean, she still was a nobody. She was raised as a nobody. She wasn't ever a Palpatine,
Yeah.
But
going back to that,
she doesn't consider herself a Palpatine.
Going back to that thing you were saying about the flow of the modern trilogy, if we had gotten something like what happened at the end of Empire, where we had a reveal then, and that was the cliffhanger that she was a Palpatine or something, she had that evil in her. I think it would have hit a little bit better, and it wouldn't have been
there
so
could have been a lot better.
There
could have been a lot better of setups for a lot of the story beats for the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
a lot of the stuff could have been set up beforehand in other films.
A long time ago, we talked about there being being a part 1 and part 2, and then we found out that wasn't the case. Do you remember that a while ago? We were
to the Rise of
Skywalker. Yeah, that there was going to be a part 1 and part 2. I feel like there could have easily been a part 1 and part 2.
There could have been,
because of the beats. You could have had that cliffhanger moment in part 1 with all these big reveals.
Yeah,
and then part 2 resolve everything.
Yeah, I mean the movie's pretty well split in half.
There might have been a little bit of Hobbit kind of stuff in there, where with some more filler. Maybe.
Yeah, where you film part of it in a river with GoPros. Yeah.
I forgot about that. The barrels.
Literally shot with GoPros.
I forgot about that.
Like the movie looks fantastic, then cut to like 1080p GoPro footage.
Yeah.
Like
That
what happened?
looks like a
Why
whole
is my
movie.
film suddenly pixelated?
It looks like a whole movie.
Look, yeah, I'm watching someone snowboarding videos
Like,
from their vacation in
like
Aspen.
you could see the latex glue on the Hobbit feet.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
God forbid we
Anyway.
suddenly switch to GoPro footage in a Star Wars movie.
Jeez. That would be the jump the shark moment, probably.
Right. You cut to like a speeder bike scene with GoPros, and it's just dirt bikes jumping, making sick jumps off of dunes.
What is happening?
The whole chase on Pisana is just GoPro footage.
Oh man. Yeah.
Everyone, go back and watch.
I forget what I was talking about.
Was it the first or second Hobbit movie?
It was the second one,
It
right?
was the second one. I don't think I ever saw the third. Yeah, go back and watch the
The
second
third was-
Hobbit movie and
the
watch
third-
the GoPro footage. It's
3/4 of the
good.
third was just a fight scene, the big
Well,
battle,
it's the Battle of Five Armies, right?
at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second movie, it's when they come out of the forest with the wood elf king.
Right.
They're escaping or something.
Man, what a bad movie series.
Oh, seriously. At least we didn't get that.
That's true. At least we didn't get hobbits. But we did get Babu Freak,
That's true.
who is
one of the best new characters ever, I think.
okay. So going into this, I expected Dio to not be part of, like, to just be like, hey, look, there's a new droid and not be involved. Like they were pushing Dio just because he was cute.
He was
I
just a
assumed.
toy.
He was yeah. Same thing with Babu. I was like, it's just this guy we're probably gonna see, and we only did see him a little bit.
Yeah.
I did not expect Dio to be as you could say integral, but as much a part of the movie as he actually was. I expected him to be more like.
Well, Dio was the one who gave Finn more information
Right.
about Exegol.
I also didn't expect him to be cute and wonderful.
Dio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just the personification of that thing and the actually giving it a voice.
He was anxiety if if anxiety was a droid,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
which I think he was voiced by JJ, right?
Oh, really? Was he?
I believe so.
Oh.
Yeah, that Dio was fantastic, and so was Babu because he was
Drunk
Babu
little man.
was drunk convenience store owner in Brooklyn who's just wearing pants and just friends with everybody.
He was really good. Yeah, I really enjoyed.
He shows up at the last battle and he's just like, hey!
Looking directly at the camera.
Yeah.
Did you notice
Yeah,
that?
he spiked the lens as a CG
He
or
was
as
there-
a practical character.
He was there for us to break the fourth wall. Like, he was in Zori Bliss's cockpit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she said something, and he pops up like out of nowhere and
Right.
looks directly at the camera and laughs.
Pretty much. It was kind of like
And I loved it.
it was kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon where like one of them
Yeah.
pops up but like outside of the frame of
Right.
the cartoon.
Right.
Like I'm here too.
Right. And I actually loved it. It was really good.
You could do no wrong with him. He was so good.
He was good.
Constantly muttering and drunk sounding and so good.
I love the way his lines just like trailed off.
He was like, when he's first working on C-3PO after he's already out, and he's like, "Oh,
Right.
just
muttering to himself.
drunk off his ass, seemingly.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Babu was fantastic.
And 3PO also had a lot of good lines in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, I liked 3PO's story. It was sad. I still feel that it was sad that R2 just never was
Was
involved.
kinda
He was
sidelined.
never involved in this entire trilogy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
he was
don't
kinda
know if
sidelined.
that's I mean, I don't know.
I don't know why.
Is it because
of
Kenny,
BB-8.
Because Kenny Baker died?
I would say because of BB-8. I would say BB-8 and R2 serve very similar functions. And they thought, yeah, we want to give people this new droid instead.
I guess, but I feel like I don't know.
They do. I mean, they're both like the companion droid that gets into trouble and helps unlock
I can't
things.
remember if I've said this to you or on the show because I don't know when I've talked about what, but I think it would have been funnier to have R2 with BB-8 Because BB-8 is like the young, spunky, like
the two of them
go
together.
Get him droid, and R2's like the grizzled old man.
Grizzled old veteran droid.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been funnier to have R2 with BB-8, like.
But then you're
trying to slow him down or show him how to do things, right? Like once they finally got reconnected at the end of Force Awakens,
yeah,
I feel like it would have been funnier to have that dynamic.
Yeah.
But then you've got the C-3PO show for the most part,
right? But then you've got. Yeah, I feel like they kind of traded R2 for C-3PO because of Anthony Daniels and because he's been involved in this since the beginning, right. And he is a main character.
Yeah.
So I felt like you either have that or you have all three droids running around together, and then it's just like impractical.
I guess so.
But yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I missed R2. I mean, I noticeably missed him in this movie. Like I expected him to finally be more involved and do something, and he didn't really get to at all.
Yeah. He was with Leia at the end, though. I thought that was good.
That was good.
I mean, he was the first time we saw R2 was with Leia,
right?
You know,
right.
So for him to be there at the end, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
That scene, her dying, and then Han showing back up, with Ben, when Ben finally turns around.
Right.
Those really hit hard.
Yeah.
It was done well.
Yeah.
I thought to have Han and Ben's interaction be basically the same interaction from Force Awakens, but now Ben has the strength to do what he wanted to do, I feel like, originally.
It's just a rehash of that exact same scene, but with
almost the same lines.
With him
but with different feeling.
Doing what he should have done the first time.
Yeah. Right.
It was effective. It was good.
Yeah. I really, really liked that. I thought they got that really well.
And then so I mean, you can attest to the fact that I cried for about the last 5 minutes of the movie.
The first time we saw it.
The first time I saw it, I probably cried for a good 5 minutes straight. The whole, once the last battle was over and they landed back on the planet, my body realized that it was over.
Yeah.
The movie was over, the series was over, everything had reached an end, and I just couldn't take that thought, and I started crying.
And then
Maz gives Chewie the medal.
His medal.
And I couldn't stop crying at that point. It just yes, he did it! He did it, Chewie!
He got a medal.
And then when it pans out and they're all celebrating and he's holding it up and showing C-3PO and he's so happy that he has this medal.
I watched for that this time, and you're right. He's very excited.
So excited. And
he's waving it in front of
that's 3PO. Probably Han's medal.
Well, so I had a kind of a fucked up thought about that. What if Leia has been keeping that medal since Yavin 4?
She has Chewie's.
She kept his medal. She
never gave it to him.
Yeah.
She always felt bad that she forgot to give him one, but could never bring herself to say that she was wrong. And
it was that thing of it's too late now, but you should have done it a lot earlier.
It'll be too awkward. I can't do it.
Right.
Well, because she was holding the medal when reached out to Ben. Leia had it in her hand.
When
she was laying on that. When she laid down.
Oh, was that what she dropped?
That's what she was holding. She was holding that medal.
Oh, that was Han's.
So I'm assuming that was Han's medal.
Okay.
That then she gave to Chewie, or then Maz.
You
gave
sure
to
that
Chewie.
was the medal that she was holding?
That's what it looked like. It looked like the medal.
I wasn't paying attention to her hands.
I looked at that. What it
if you
looked
know
like
what
she was holding. First off, she's a dead woman in real life. Second off,
and in the movie.
I know. There's so many ways this is screwed up. I'm pretty sure that's what she was holding, holding Han's medal when she reached out to Ben. So I'm guessing Maz stole it from her dead body.
Well, it fell on the ground.
There's a lot of messed up things happening in this. Just don't think about it too much.
She dropped it.
Well, one, Chewie finally got his medal, but two, I think that's Han's as well.
Yeah.
Which probably means even more to him than anything.
Right.
But yeah, when he got that medal and he was so excited, I have teared up at Star Wars movies or gotten, just emotional. But this is the first time I've fully had tears streaming down my face for pretty much anything in a very long time.
Yeah.
Which is
your marriage, your children's births.
Back to the psychopath thing. Pretty sure I cried more at the end of this movie.
You are a broken person.
I'm pretty sure I cried more at the end of this movie than at, families, members' funerals. There's not a problem there. Don't talk to me about it.
No. Don't think about it.
This is fine.
Just don't think about it at all.
But
And
I cried so much.
Yeah.
It was so much that it was finally over.
Even watching it,
and everything that had happened and everything that it meant, and it was just very intense the first time. I couldn't control it.
Watching it the second time, Han's conversation with Ben hit a lot harder than it did the first time, and then at the end, seeing seeing Chewie's reaction to Leia's death.
Yeah, that's really rough.
Like it crushed him. Like, man,
he wasn't there. Like
he heard about it just kind of
stuff
after the fact, and like he was just crushed.
Right.
I mean, you've never seen him
he's lost everyone.
You've never seen him that upset.
No.
In anything.
I mean, the last time he yelled like that was when Han got stabbed. I mean,
yeah, but he didn't fall to his knees. He didn't
have time to either.
It didn't take the wind out of him.
That's the other
angered
thing.
him.
He didn't have time to respond other than to shoot Kylo, and then they had to get the hell out of there. It
was a difference of being angry and reacting in anger to Han's death and just being so furious to having the wind knocked out of him.
Right.
You know?
Because that was the last. I mean, other than Lando, but it's not the same.
Right.
Like that was the last person.
That's
I mean, almost everyone is gone that he started this with.
Right. He's been there since the very beginning. Like 3PO.
And Lando was a friend, and obviously Lando has been involved in his life, and it wasn't. But I mean, they're not the same as the original group of people.
Right. Right. Yeah. That was really hard.
Right.
To see, but
so it's
I forget where I was going with that.
I mean, yeah. So Chewie hearing that Leia died, that was really emotional too.
Oh, and I was gonna say the scene with Han and Ben. That, you know, yes, the thing with them kind of repeating their same conversation, that's very powerful, and just having a different angle to it this time. But then also watching Ben, like, man, Adam Driver's performance in this movie was excellent. He's so good.
He's always been.
He's been good through this whole trilogy.
All of them have.
But seeing him struggle with this, you know, and then realize, like, he tried to go back into his old Kylo self at the very beginning of that conversation.
Right.
Like, you know, trying to say that Ben's dead. But it registered to him finally, you know, now that his mom is gone, now that, you know, his dad is coming back and saying the same, that he still loves him, saying the same things to him that he was before. Even though they're both dead now. Like, it's really powerful.
Yeah. And that was a conversation we had right before we started recording. That's another thing I feel bad, at least for Ben's arc. I feel like his story, his arc ended there. The rest of the movie, he was just servicing Rey's arc. And he literally had no more lines from that point forward.
Do you think I saw somebody complaining about this, and I think they weren't thinking about it the right way. Do you think at that moment he realized, I need to sacrifice myself in order for this to work? Because he shows up at Exegol with nothing, a blaster, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Right. Yeah.
Do you think at that point he had just resigned to dying?
Resigned to help her no matter what.
Right.
Possible. It's possible. I find it a strange choice that he never spoke again after he was redeemed. We never got to hear Ben speak again after having that conversation.
That's a little disappointing.
I feel like that was a strange choice, but it's, you know, it's whatever.
It was kind of like the moment in Force Awakens where Chewie doesn't get the hug. It was like, well, that was a strange choice. He didn't really have to, like, just have him get a hug, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you know, maybe it's just a JJ thing. I don't know. I mean,
always holding something back.
3PO had a red arm.
I mean, look at Lost. Lost was full of that kind of stuff.
I think we blame
Damon. Damon Lindelof.
We blame Damon, pretty much specifically Lindelof for that one.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, just more about Ben. You know, him. I think Rey stabbing him, I think, was a relief. I think maybe he wanted that to some degree.
It's finally done.
Right. Like he finally doesn't have to deal with his past and all his choices now. He's just
finally
dead.
Can't even.
Right. But I think when Rey didn't leave him to die and healed him, I think at that point, that's when he realized, you know, what he's done, and now it's time for him to own up. You know,
it's time to act like
give up his life, basically.
It's time to man up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was that turning point of not being a child anymore and just being an adult.
Exactly.
Like he finally made that decision.
He's been the spoiled child,
basically
having a temper tantrum this whole time, and he finally grew up.
He finally had that responsibility. He finally understood responsibility.
His parents are gone now.
The responsibility of his power, the responsibility of his choices, the effect he's had. And he finally had that grown up moment.
Yeah.
That conversation with his dad that he needed to finish, where he finally grew up.
Right. Honestly, the same kind of thing that happened with Luke and Yoda.
Right.
Which was probably my favorite moment of Last Jedi. That conversation of Luke realizing that failure is normal.
Right.
Like that, you know, you don't just go away because you failed. Right. You know, there was failure on both. I love that connection there. There's failure on both parts, on Ben's part and on Luke's part.
Yeah.
They failed each other. They failed other people around them.
Well, again, that's.
But Luke kind of manned up at the end and accepted his failure and moved past it.
Well,
and
that's
I think
the whole very human piece of this new trilogy.
Yeah.
The very realistic and human piece that people, I guess, don't want in their fantasy
heroes
film.
Yeah, even heroes
where it's
let
like,
people down.
You're going to fail.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to fail at some point. It's how you respond to your failure that is the real
Poe had that moment.
Right.
Luke had that moment. Ben had that moment now. Rey didn't really get that arc. She just got the arc of where do I belong, or how do I fit into this?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
I think she feels like she was failed. Like there was a failure that happened to her.
She's a product of failure.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, maybe.
And responding to that. There's this very overarching like failure and response to it, and the different ways you can respond to it and the effect it has.
Right.
Because I mean, everyone's going to fail. It's your response to that failure that decides what happens going forward.
Yeah.
And obviously for Luke and Ben, they both chose the wrong response to their failure.
Initially.
And then eventually came back around.
Right.
And then Rey is just trying her hardest not to fail because she feels like she began life as a failure.
Yeah. And she starts to dip her toe into it because she's trying so hard to avoid failure, I think, in this movie.
Yeah.
She starts to lose control a little bit and lose sight of
being afraid to fail because she wants to earn being somebody finally.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not really something you have to earn. It's just she had no self-worth.
Right.
That's probably the biggest. I mean, I think that's where a lot of the complaints from people that just want a space fantasy film is this trilogy. I mean, all of Star Wars has it. It's a very heartfelt, personal journey of all these different characters, where it's like you can see yourself in a lot of their choices and things they experience and things they do. And then people complain about like, well, an old man who tried to kill his nephew wouldn't get angry and be sad about it. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
That's exactly. I feel bad when I get angry at my son. Like when my son is 5, and when I get mad at him for doing something that a kid does or a kid doesn't understand, I then feel bad about it later.
Right. And
it's so, do I just, keep being do I just go hide, or do I go talk to him and try to explain what happened?
Right.
It's that, that's people and human.
I mean, look at Anakin's story. That started this whole thing of like he was trying so hard with this good, arguably good motivation of saving the people that he loved.
Right.
Or the person that he loved. Or people, I guess you could say Shmi was part of that. But yeah, that his whole motivation was to get enough power so that he could save these people, and that power consumed him.
Right.
You know, he put himself in that position that instead of just accepting that things happen that you can't control.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and for all the terrible instruction that the Jedi gave, they were right about that he needed to just kind of move on.
Right.
And kind of accept what life has given him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always been a very personal sort of thing. So
yeah, I will never understand the complaints about the story not making sense.
So in general,
good. Star Wars is good.
How would you rate Star Wars? Good?
Good out of 10.
By applause.
Just mine?
Yeah.
So I have to clap really loud for just one person. Oh, no. Great. I'm sure that sounded wonderful. Overall, Star Wars is
good.
10 out of 9 goods.
All right, we did it. We accomplished the purpose of this podcast.
We
rating all of Star Wars.
Definitively proven that Star Wars is good.
If you're still listening after all of this, our review is it's good.
It did it.
5 stars.
5 stars out of 4.
It's good now.
It's good now? Oh no. No, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's hard to think now that there will not be another film for only 2 years, supposedly.
Well, yeah. We'll see about that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
been a lot of ups and downs for that one.
The rumor is that they already know who the director is for the next movie.
And the story, right?
And possibly the story, and that there will be some sort of announcement sometime in January.
Ah.
Basically, they're trying to let Rise of Skywalker have its time, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there will be some sort of announcement or, press thing sometime in January stating the fact that they have the director and whatever else it is.
Do you think it's do you think they're just it's less about letting Rise of Skywalker have its moment and more just like, let's see what the reception is and see if we want to announce another movie?
I wonder. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they've already said the thing in 2022 is happening.
Yeah.
And I mean, 2 years between Star Wars movies is
normal.
I mean, that's just a normal movie making time span. So it's not like it's a ridiculous amount of time. It'll be interesting to figure out what it even is, because what could it possibly be now?
Right.
It could literally be anything. And it's supposedly supposed to not have anything to do with the Skywalker Saga again.
I would say a safe bet would be the Old Republic. Some kind of Old Republic thing.
Possibly.
But
yeah,
because you could completely wipe the board clean for that.
The Mandalorian, the movie.
The Mandalorian, the movie. Yeah. A Star Wars story.
It'll be like the High School Musical show on Disney Plus.
What was that called?
It's called...
You said that. Did you say that on the show?
Yes. It's High School Musical, the show, the something. I gotta find it now. High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Oh my god!
There are 2.
High School Musical, the musical.
Yeah,
isn't that in the title already? It's kind of implied.
It's the High School Musical series.
The High School Musical, the musical, the series, the series.
2 colons in this. Yeah. So
there's 2 colons.
High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Oh my god.
End colons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Mandalorian the movie, a Star Wars story.
Star Wars story. Yes.
Okay. It's good now.
Yeah, sure. I'm just reading about High School Musical, the series now. Apparently, the original High School Musical, they're now the school that happened in. No. Oh, no. Oh. It's set in a fictionalized version of the school that the original movie was filmed, and the teenagers are staging a production of the High School Musical.
No.
So they're making a musical of the High School Musical as their school's production. And it's a series about that.
No. What?
So it's a High School Musical.
It's a series about a school putting on
a High School Musical
about the movie. What the hell is happening?
That's like 6 layers deep of Inception, where it doesn't make.
Do you think the target audience for this movie is going to understand what's happening?
I already don't. I give up. I refuse.
Wow. I can't even think of what that's like.
So they made a show about a movie they made, saying that the movie was a movie, and this show is making a musical about the movie that was shot in their school.
That's like having a Breaking Bad series that is the school that he was a teacher at putting on a production about Breaking Bad.
Yeah, because Breaking Bad wasn't real.
But they're actually making meth in the play.
And that's how they fund the production.
Yes.
Great. See, that's even a better idea than this High School Musical thing. Oh, that was too much to learn that one moment.
You didn't need to know all that, did you?
Yeah, so it's going to be The Mandalorian, the movie. The Mandalorian show, the movie, the Star Wars story. They can't do like a 6 seasons in a movie thing with the Star Wars. Please don't ever do that. If it's a show, be a show. If it's a movie, be a movie. I don't think the two should cross over. Right?
Well, I mean, you're getting the Captain Cassian series. That went backwards. That went from a movie to...
You can go backwards. But not...
In time and in production.
It's a prequel, so that makes sense, I guess.
But I mean, it's a TV show.
That's
you
fine.
went from Rogue One to a TV show for that one.
Can you go? But
can you go the other way?
I feel like it's a failure to go from a TV show to a movie.
A failure? Why?
I don't know. It seems like.
Well, what if you went from?
So what? Your show's not good enough to tell us this story?
What if you went from Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan TV show to a movie?
No.
You don't think that would work?
No. That
would feel weird, wouldn't it?
It's very not Star Wars.
Like the movie starts and it's like, hey, remember me? I'm a guy from the show.
Oh, remember all those things that happened on Tatooine during my time there? Anyways.
That's just a super cut of the TV show.
Scenes from the show, which are in far worse quality than the movie is. It's the GoPros on the river.
Oh, no. Yeah, the new Obi-Wan show is filmed entirely on GoPros. Oh, no. In a river.
In a river on Tatooine? Those Tatooine rivers. All right, we should end this mess.
We've gone on for a long time now.
Oh, we had to talk about a whole dang movie that...
A whole dang one movie
that
and a TV
culminated in all of the products of our life.
The end of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's over forever.
This has been our whole life.
It has.
It's pretty crazy.
That's why it was so intense when it ended. I was just like, everything I've ever known is done.
When you're broken in the way that both of us are, and you think this is real, and it ends,
right?
That's hard to accept.
Right. Definitely. Well,
all you broken people out there.
We don't know what this podcast will be anymore, but tune in next time.
What if we just come back and it's completely something else? It's just not Star Wars anymore.
Start talking about Disney Plus series that aren't the Star Wars ones.
Right.
Now we have to start our High School Musical, the series podcast.
Jeez.
Where we talk about
High School
nothing
Musical,
makes
the musical,
sense.
the series, the podcast.
Oh my! Think of the colons. So many.
That's what Chipotle says. That's a sign in the back. Think of the colons.
No, that's someone that's like that's someone that's campaigning outside of Chipotle. They're picketing Chipotle.
Save our colons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this definitely needs
I
to
think
end.
we need to stop talking.
Well, thank you for listening to Hokey Religion. If you want to talk to us, you can find us on Twitter at Hokey Podcast. I always get it wrong in my head.
Hokey No Hokey Podcast.
Hokey No Hokey Podcast.
Hokey no Hokey is a good.
Hokey no Hokey.
That's a good Twitter handle.
We need an alt account. Yes, contact us at Hokey Podcast on Twitter. You can shoot us an email at asklobot@hokeyreligion.com. And you can find us wherever sounds are produced.
Yes,
that pretty much makes sense.
Radios.
If you really enjoy the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/hokeyreligion and donate monetary values to support us financially because we can't.
Because we can't donate or because we can't?
Because we don't want to.
Oh.
No. This show is not free. It's free for you, technically.
So far.
So far.
Imagine if we started charging.
Imagine if we
put
this behind a paywall.
No, that's why no one pays us. I think we just realized.
Right. Can you imagine how there would be no listeners if this was behind a paywall?
A paywall with one show.
Right.
Okay.
That's like I don't know what would that can't even think of a comparison for that.
A paywall with one show? I think that's just Patreon.
I was trying to think. It's like it's like opening a new club and then charging to get in. No, that's what they do. It's like
Wait a minute.
it's like releasing a new video game and then charging for. No, they do that too.
Wait a minute.
Wait, we could be making money here.
Pay artists?
Maybe if we do put it behind a paywall, it'll make it seem good.
Would you classify this as artistry? What we do? I would. This is artistry.
It's only a true artist can sound this insane.
Yes. Time to cut off our ears
and send them to prostitutes. That's what you do.
Is that real?
Yeah.
Oh, is that
That's what he did.
She was a prostitute?
Pretty sure.
I didn't know that.
I consider her one.
Okay, that's been Hokey Religion. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Hokey Religion is an ancient weapon. Hokey Religion is an ancient weapon, so no match for a good blaster, true saga.